words from me. I'm working at Trend as a cloud security architect, and we're doing our best to secure your cloud environments, of course. It's our first time on ContainerDays, and the first time for me to have a talk here in English with all you guys. The problem with TrendMicro and ContainerDays would be that we are not that famous for container security for some reason. I don't know why, because we're not talking much about that, I would say. And therefore, I have one small slide about TrendMicro in general, that you get an imagination what we are doing and where we come from, if you do not know that. So we are a cybersecurity company since 1998, so a long time on the market, but not that long for containers. But we're not a startup or a small company. We're just 7,000 passionate people called employees trying to do our job here. And even if we are 30 years or more than 30 years on the market, we're not your grandpa's antivirus company anymore. So we're doing much more than just antivirus and doing some tricks at that. And when you look at this picture, the guy sitting here will not create any malware. He will search for vulnerabilities that he can exploit and all those stuff and trying things on the network to place. And the last step, of course, malware, ransomware, whatever he's doing. So all these technologies will have their place left in the scenario, but we have another focus on the topic security. And that's not the topic I'm talking about today, about antivirus, but we're talking about something I heard in a lot of talks yesterday where I sit in there. One buzzword were nearly everywhere, that was cloud native. And I talk about cloud-native applications as well, so how they developed, how they evolved over the time. And when we talk about cloud-native applications, I have this picture of this pyramid where we have the bottom layer of the cloud-native infrastructure. And again, cloud-native is our word here. So infrastructure like compute power, like storage, like network, security, compliance, governance, and all those stuff as well. And cloud-native because those infrastructures mainly deployed programmatically, so as infrastructure as code, for example. Therefore, we say cloud-native infrastructure in this case. And on top of this cloud infrastructure, we nearly have almost ever a Kubernetes orchestration system to orchestrate all those containers we need for cloud-native application because they are run in a microservice-based architecture with containers, of course. And as you can see, they are mainly built in pipelines, in DevOps style, I would say. So we have this infinity donut here for the DevOps, the process that will never end. So those applications evolve in every step of this life cycle and regenerate the process from the beginning in. And on the top, then, we have the cloud-native applications because they all make use of all the bottom layers you see in this pyramid here and making an effort of that. But also, when you look at those layers, you can imagine that it's not that easy to do security for those applications because you have to reach out in different layers that you need to secure when you're running cloud-native applications. And when you talk about DevOps or DevSecOps or SecDevOps or what do you want to call that, it means that you want to integrate security in this infinity donut life cycle at any stage or nearly the early stage that is possible in some build or coding pipelines. And when you talk about cloud-native, as cloud-native is built up with infrastructure as code, with many automatism processes and all this stuff, it is much more requirement to do this shift left of security as early as possible in this life cycle. And when you look at organizations trying to secure those environments and those applications, you will find out that they are using many tools doing security within this lifecycle and process. Nearly every company is using more than 10 security tools, freeware, open source, sold software, of course. Some of them are very old. They are using it like the antivirus or anything like that. Some things of them are very new. Runtime security of a container or some kind of that will be relatively new things. But the point of those many tools is that they're mainly in siloed responsibilities. So the guy who is doing the network policy on a Kubernetes cluster may be not in the same team like the operations guy who is operating the Kubernetes nodes in the end. And they will have a siloed view on all those security stuff and tooling. And they only see the things that they are interested in the moment in, but not the holistic picture of the complete application in the end. And that's a problem, because when you work with cloud-native applications, you should have an overall application risk view on the application. I have two examples here. So when you are looking at the left side of this box, of this table, you will see an application that might have a vulnerability, might be a vulnerability like Log4j, or a vulnerability that has a CVSS score of 10. So it's very critical. But when I have an infrastructure underlaying this application that makes it impossible to exploit this vulnerability, it may be no risk for my application in the end. So if I run this application in a dedicated VPC where only one internal IP address has access to, then it may come up that I only have to make sure that this one internal IP address is a safe environment, and then the application has no risk. On the other side, I may have an application that has no security vulnerabilities, that's pretty secured, but in the end, it runs on a cloud infrastructure where I have a misconfiguration, and therefore everything is publicly available, and that is a bigger risk in this case. And this is the holistic view of an application. So the application with a vulnerability within that may be no risk for me and my company, and I might accept this risk and run the application. On the other hand, an application that seems to be quite secure could be a much more bigger risk in the end. So it's not only seeing misconfigurations on the one side or vulnerabilities on the other side. You have to mix this, you have to do your assessment, you have to do correlation of all those things, and then you get an overview over the whole application risk in the end. And as we talk about DevOps, DevSecOps, and all those stuff, we have our development and we have our operations teams, and they are working with their tools. So the development teams are working with development tools. We see some symbols there for prominent things of them. And we have the operation guys and the security guys. They are working with their tooling. When we're talking about the cloud-native applications, they span over the whole environment. So they came up with source code, of course. We have source code open source analysis and all those stuff. We have infrastructure as code. We have images that we build from registries and repositories to create our containers in our runtime environment, and that spans over the whole part. And to secure these things without using complex set of tooling that spans around all those stuff, and I already said we have 10 plus security tools in our environments when we're talking about the cloud-native applications, then you need something that will try this to get a single pane of glass on the overall application risk in the end. And with 2021 in August, Gartner identified CNAPP as Cloud Native Application Protection Platform that would be the way to do this single pane of glass and the application or project risk assessment view on my cloud-native applications in the end. So what is CNAP, or what should CNAP deliver? CNAP should consolidate the complete tooling we have underlying on our different departments. And it should suffer a security and compliance view over the whole life cycle of an application and giving me the risk. But it's not a new technology, not a new platform that we have to create on a technology basis. It's just putting out the information on our security toolings and put them together in the right order and with the right wording and with the right risk assessment in the end. And therefore, we need to integrate all sides from here. So we have our dev part, we have our ops part, of course, and we have our toolings and sets that we're doing on each side. And we have the cloud configuration part that could be part of development department. It could be part of the operations or security department as well. When we look in detail what they are doing or what components or capabilities should be available in a cloud-native application protection platform, we see that on the artifact scanning part, so on the left side where we are talking to developers mainly, we have the source code analysis, we have static application security testing, dynamic application security testing, exposure scanning, so we are looking at vulnerabilities in images and all those stuff. On the right side, in the runtime, of course, we have to look what is running in a container. We have a web application, for example, in the container. We need to protect it. We have APIs that we are using to fire up all our coding stuff with our applications. We need to protect this as well. We have classical workload protection technologies there. So we have virtual instances or containers that we run in a cloud-native application environment. They have to be protected and secured as well. We have network security and segmentation there. And of course, we have exposure scanning in the runtime as well. You see this orange arrow beneath. So we have something that called attack path analysis. So you gather the information from both sides, and then you can draw down the path your vulnerability or your risk will access your application in any case. And in the middle, we see the cloud configuration part. So we have cloud security posture management, of course, where we have to look at the configuration of the cloud services, as well as something called Kubernetes security posture management. How are the Kubernetes services are configured, and are they configured for the best practices on the one side, and are they configured for security compliance regulatories like a NIST or a CIS benchmark or a GDPR or whatever you're needed to fulfill with your environment at the end. And all those things we get from different tools at the moment. So we have some tools doing CSPM, we have some tools doing CVPP and all those stuff. And creating a CNAP is not only putting a dashboard over that and say, okay, I have here my point solutions and we have one dashboard, you log in and then you can access everything from here. That's not CNAP, but you have to think about all those security toolings as an information source, giving all this information into one platform where it is assessed, where it will be correlated, and in the end, you get your project or application view on this part. So then when you get this one, you can suffer if you have an application which has a vulnerability, but that is no risk for your company. So you may accept this risk and use this application in its environment, or you have an application that has a misconfiguration in its cloud infrastructure because something went wrong in the infrastructure as code templates, for example. And you may want to see that very early. So when you create these templates, you want to scan those templates and know what is built from these templates before you build it. And therefore you have the risk visible earlier. And so what is doing CNAP in the end? CNAP is using all these point solutions like the cloud workload protection platform, like the cloud security posture management, like something called XDR, so extended detection response, managed detection and response, source code analysis, all those stuff will be drilled down. Those tiles of a puzzle will be put together, and you get a big picture of your application risk in the end. Thing with Cloud Native Application Protection Platform is that you need a highly automated and integrated platform that you can build up in every stage of your DevOps lifecycle, that you can do automated. So the developers in the end want one thing. What they want to do, they want to develop, and you don't want to hinder them. So you have to integrate and automate everything here as well. And then in the end, CNAP does the trick that you can make the teams collaborate with each other because they're using their tools. They know their tools, and they just see in the CNAP platform one overview over the risk, and they can act with their tools against this risk also. So in the end, CNAP is everything about solving the cloud security puzzle here, doing it in form that you gathering the information from your point solutions, putting them together, putting the puzzle together, that you have a clear view and the big picture on your applications in the end. You need to integrate in the pipelines, of course. You need to integrate with APIs that all departments can use their tools they are using now and using in the future as well. And that's all about CNAP and what CNAP has to deliver. And when you want to know what TrendMicro is doing regarding CNAP and how we are evolving our platforms and our security management, then I would invite you come to our booth at B5. You find us with our red T-shirts on. Our nice guys will be happy to answer your questions when you have anything to ask there. And yeah, hope that you was interested in this talk, and maybe if you have questions, just ask me. Otherwise, come to our booth and we will be happy to talk to you.